Live in about 10 seconds. Okay, over to you, Dawn.
Looks like we're live. So welcome everybody who's been able to join us here on Zoom, and anybody else who's tuning in YouTube land. We're back to the Zoom board meetings. This is the last board meeting of 2020. So that is really exciting that we've made it through this most unusual and challenging year. I'm feeling very hopeful for 2021. Really want to start by acknowledging and recognizing, not just on my behalf, but on behalf of the whole school district, recognizing and acknowledge the Esquimalt and Songhees nations, on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. And since we are virtual, perhaps you are on different territories. And so I do welcome and invite everybody to consider their relationship to that land and to the people who've lived here for always. I know we all have such a spirit of gratitude in our district, and it's something that is so important for us all to cultivate in a very active way. So it's always good to start our night with a proper acknowledgement. I also just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. I think we've got our question period email that I want to share out. I don't know that I've received it yet, but I can, oh, there it is, imagine. The email tonight is, Lisa, can you read out the email address?
Question period at st61.bc.ca.
Perfect. That's consistent. We can stick with that. So if anybody has any questions as we move along, please share them that way, and we'll get that to them at the question period portion of the evening. And we are on Zoom. It's a challenging format. I'm going to try and move, slow enough that we don't miss anything, but also, try to keep the meeting moving. So if I miss you, if I call a vote incorrectly, please speak up right away. It takes quite a bit of focus going through the two screens. So I thank you in advance for your patience and welcome your interruptions if I go astray in guiding us through the evening. Yeah, so I think the next thing is approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Trustee Tom Ferris, Trustee Ann Whitaker.
Before we approve it, Chair, point of order, I'd like to add to the agenda. Just a very short report from me, trustee reports. So that would be C2B. I was able to attend the INEC meeting after I sent in my late written report. And at trustee questions, please.
Okay, so C2A
is trustee Hensa, so C2B could be me.
Okay, we'll add you there, Trustee McNally. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Trustee Ryan Painter?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I know I had some mic problems last time. I would also like to add my trustee report as the BCSTA rep under trustee reports, which would now be CCC. Wow, that came out well. I believe, yes. Yeah, C2C, I believe that's where that would go.
Wonderful. Okay, any other changes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the amended agenda? And that is unanimous. Only trustees are voting, Mr. Rumble. But thank you for jumping right in. Next up, we're at approval of the minutes for our November 23rd meeting, which feels like just yesterday. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, but it's pretty condensed timeline. Trustee Duncan, did you have are you moving it?
Sorry, Chair. I was going to suggest an amendment.
Go ahead.
So it's at page 17, the public disclosure of in-camera items. I believe at C, there was a disclosure of 7 in-camera items pertaining to SJ Burnside, and the dates of each motion that we're disclosing to the public meeting are not in the minuted version. And so I just wondered if we could add those.
Certainly, I don't see why not. Secretary Treasurer, can we do that? I will assume so. I can't see why not.
Yes, you can. Sorry, I didn't realize my video wasn't on.
Well, that's all right. I just don't want to sign you up for something that's. Any other changes to the minutes of November 23rd? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Duncan, Trustee Leonard. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Any business arising from the minutes, trustees? Trustee Whitaker?
Thank you. I wanted to go to A5 of the minutes. States we are looking for, you will bring a full report regarding the security costs of surveillance to the December Ops and Policy meeting. And I do understand that it was a cut short meeting, but I'm wondering if or when we will get an update on this. For the surveillance at Big High.
Kim?
Yes, yep, we're currently working on some of the regulation items, and we'll be reporting out in January.
Thank you. And then I have another one under B4. I just, mind you, hang on, I do see that this comes up again in some other places, but by consensus, the chair will follow up with VC PAC to discuss a process for response to their letter. And I see that they also sent us a letter on December 9th. So I'm assuming that we haven't followed up. So I'm just wondering what we're going to do about that, or if that does, I'm not sure if that's coming under the superintendent's report, but maybe a quickie right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Superintendent Green.
So I am able to report to the board that I have followed up on the first letter, have received the second letter, so can speak to that a little bit today.
And that'll come under your report, Superintendent?
Yes, it will.
Okay, Trustee Whitaker, are you okay to wait till then? We can have a full discussion of how we handle that. Any other business arising from the minutes? Seeing, oh, Trustee Duncan?
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, we wanted to circle back under G, public disclosure of in-camera items. I had asked whether we could consider putting the motions that we disclose to the public pertaining to an in-camera meeting in the official public record of that meeting, the Section 72 report. And the Secretary Treasurer was kind enough to offer to just circle back, double check Section 72 to make sure that there was no reason why we couldn't do that. And I just wondered if she'd had an opportunity to do so.
Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, I have sent that off to BCSTA and am awaiting a response.
Anything else arising from the minutes? Any other business? Seeing none, it's my pleasure to welcome QUADRA Elementary and Connor McCoy, principal. It's always the highlight of our meetings to provide a presentation around student achievement, what's happening at QUADRA Elementary School, or École QUADRA.
Thank you very much. And a big thanks to the board for allowing me to come here and spend a few minutes with you tonight, talking about what we're doing in terms of teaching and learning at QUADRA Elementary. Andy is going to be guiding us through a presentation. But I want, before we start, to preface this presentation by saying that all of what I'm about to share is the work of the teachers at QUADRA. The culture at QUADRA is so conducive to high quality collaboration that I just needed to step out of their way. To begin, last year our school took steps to elaborate on what it means to be a collaborative community of teaching and learning. Our long-term aim is to work together in teaching teams to accomplish several tasks. Firstly, to determine exactly what it is our students must learn, then to monitor this learning to inform our practice And finally, to provide appropriate interventions when A, students are in need of more support, and B, when they are in need of enrichment materials. The work last year started with looking at the curriculum in grade level teams. Most of the information outlined in this presentation is taken directly from the work our teaching staff completed during our November 20th Professional Development Day. Slide, please. From this work, we formed a school objective to collaborate around the curriculum and common formative assessments to ensure high levels of learning for all our students. More on common formative assessments to come. Slide, please. Just going to give you a tick to read this slide on your own. So as you can see, we look to frame our work within the following 4 questions. Slide, please. Question 1, what do we expect our students to learn? As I mentioned at the beginning, this was the work that we did as teaching teams with the curriculum last year. Slide, please. 2, how will we know when our students are learning? This is the work that we did in our Professional Development Day in November. As we know, formative assessment is assessment for learning as opposed to of learning. It is used to inform both the teacher and the student of the student's progress. Formative assessment guides teacher practice, and collaborating around common formative assessment changes our focus from teaching to learning. So common formative assessment is assessment created by a teaching team around a specific curricular outcome that is then analyzed using the same criteria. Slide, please. Question 3, how will we respond when they don't learn? Our goal here is to look at student learning to inform our support models and guide our teaching practice. Slide, please. Question 4, how will we respond if they already know it? Again, this is looking at our common formative assessments and determining what level of support a student needs. However, in this case, the support is to provide enrichment materials. Slide, please. So I've taken up a little bit of your time, but I really wanted you to hear from some of our staff in terms of how they view this work. Andy, if you could roll that video, please. You'll have to take the mute off.
Still can't hear the audio, or at least I can't.
No, we can't hear the audio, Andy. Is it possible to turn it up?
Andy, are you muted?
I'm not, and my sound isn't either. Let me see. Same as system. What's the alphabet? Still no audio?
Yeah, now.
Okay, let me run that back. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Thank you so much.
No, it's gone again.
Andy, listen to Ryan in your chat box.
Yeah, Andy, I don't know if you clicked share computer sound when you shared your Zoom screen, but when you share screen,
Okay.
make sure you share the computer sound too.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Thank you. Sorry about this.
All right. We love to hear from teachers, and we're have no problem waiting.
Share sound, Ryan. Thank you very much.
So when you share screen on the lower left, it should say share computer sound.
Got it. Let's try this again.
during the last Pro D Day, we got together with our grade groups and we talked about some common formative assessment pieces that we can use within our grade group. So with my colleagues, I teach kindergarten grade 1. I sat down with the kindergarten teachers and we looked at some early literacy and some early numeracy goals that we want to go for. And one of them was the alphabet and specifically phonics. And then for numeracy, we looked at just one-to-one correspondence, kind of a specific skill to work on. And so there was lots of assessment pieces that we could be using for literacy. We found some of the rubrics and some of the different assessment pieces from the Joyful Literacy series. And then for numeracy, we found some of our own ways of, working on those one-to-one correspondence skills and how to check for that. But more importantly, I was able to take the time to talk to the grade levels above kindergarten. So although I'm kindergarten grade 1, I do primarily have a lot of kindergarten students. And so I was curious to see what the grade 1 teachers are looking at when our students go from K to 1, and maybe some of the trends that they're noticing or things that they want us to be doing in kindergarten. Because I think that's really helpful, is that not just to focus on the short term within your grade level, but also to see, okay, where are these students going? What skills do we want them to take with them as they go into the next grades and obviously throughout the school year? So I think that's a really important piece, is looking just also beyond your own grade level and just seeing, well, where are these students going? We want them to have these certain foundations with their skills as they carry on to the next grade level. So I found that really helpful that day, just to get some insight from my other colleagues in the higher grades, just what they are expecting in a way, and how we can kind of support that as well. So it was a lot of great discussion, and it was a valuable time during that Pro D Day to actually talk about this. And I'm hoping that in the future we get more opportunities to collaborate like that in a consistent and meaningful way, to kind of look at our school as a whole and not just our own middle grade levels and things like that, because I think it's really valuable. Okay, thanks.
So I met with 2 colleagues and we talked about the needs of our students, and overall we decided that writing and specifically editing was somewhere that we really wanted to focus on because it was a weakness across all of our classes. So we came up with a formative assessment piece where we cut out a square for after every writing assignment. We'll have the students sit and they do a 3-2-1 check for when they're editing. So they have to look at 3 spelling mistakes or punctuation pieces and change those. They have to change out 2 words and shake up 1 sentence. And they have to do those either in separate colors or editing on the computer. And then when that's done, they can then turn it in. Then after, they have to create a goal for next time. So once we've marked it and gone over how they've received their grade, they come up with a goal for writing for next time. So not only are we using the editing piece, but we're also making them focus on, well, what did I struggle with, and bringing that into the next assignment. I've used it with my kids a bunch, and it's been a great tool for me to check in with them. Did you edit? Do you have your checklist? Show me where you did your editing. And it's made them accountable and me as well. And I've noticed a vast improvement in their writing. So it was very beneficial.
I met with my grade level colleagues in intermediate French immersion and had great conversations about where we want students to be at this grade level, and how that can inform future conversations with colleagues at all grade levels in our school. Where do we want our students to be at the end of elementary school in terms of French grammar, vocabulary, and syntax? So really positive conversations about what kinds of formative assessment will help us stay on track, and where we can begin those assessments earlier in a student's schooling to make sure that we're all on track for success in those areas by the end of elementary. And making sure that my colleagues in various areas of the school who have particular skills or lots to offer in terms of their expertise in particular areas, we can all work together to create a really holistically strong program for French immersion learners.
Hi, my name is Shauna Wood, and I've been a teacher here at QUADRA Elementary for the last 12 years. Starting last fall, my grade group colleagues and I gathered together to comb through the curriculum. We were looking at each of the outcomes and deciding if we thought it was an essential outcome, an important outcome, or a nice-to-have outcome. Up until that point, I had made such decisions on my own, in isolation, and I felt pretty good about the decisions I was making. But Having sat with my colleagues and worked through line by line each part of the curriculum has really truly given me a greater sense of confidence. Now I have a guiding document that I use on a pretty regular basis when I'm making decisions about the curriculum, when I'm planning for my students who maybe are not yet meeting grade level or those who are exceeding. I feel a greater sense of security when I'm making those decisions. I also found the process of creating the document incredibly valuable. Sitting with my colleagues, talking about what each outcome means to them, what it looks like in their classroom, what resources they use to approach that outcome. I think really that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Hi, my name is Jeanette and I'm a grade 1 teacher at QUADRA. I really enjoyed collaborating with my team around essential outcomes for our grade 1 students. It feels good to be on the same page with my colleagues, and it's definitely given me more confidence in what I'm choosing to spend the most time on. We have a lot of very vulnerable learners at our school, and coming up with our essential outcomes has helped give me a really clear focus and plan for supporting them. My favorite part about the process is that it's really opened up the door to further collaboration and resource sharing within my team, which I find extremely valuable. Thanks.
Slide, please, Andy. So as you can see, as a principal, I'm blessed in terms of my staff. We do great work there. They do great work. So how does our work align with our district strategic plan? Slide, please. We could easily align with any of the goals, but for the purposes of our PD, we looked at our alignment with goal 1. Slide, please. Creating an inclusive and culturally responsive learning environment that will support and improve all learners' personal and academic success is very much in line with our model of collaborative practice. Slide, please. And this is just to illustrate what we're sharing with you here is a visual of what we came up with for our PD, which places aspects of goal 1 and its strategies within our 4 questions. It was a good exercise for us as a school to align to the strategic plan. And we wanted to share that here with you. Slide, please. So when we're immersed in this method of continuous school improvement, we quickly find that we're answering another question as well. Are we providing our individual students with respectful, meaningful tasks at their level? This is a question that will be in the forefront of our minds as we implement this model of school improvement through collaboration in the coming years. Slide, please. And thanks again for letting me share. I also would like to thank my incredible staff and a special mention to Jeanne Humphreys, my VP, who made me look professional tonight, I hope. Thanks very much, everybody. And if there's any questions, if there's time for that, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear from all of your teachers and to learn what you're doing. Trustee Ryan Painter?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Connor, for the really fantastic presentation. I loved hearing from your teachers. I loved the alignment with the strategic plan. I think it's super important and super valuable, the work that you're doing. I do have one concern, and that's with the Boston or the Bruins hat behind the first teacher. I think we may have to have a conversation about that, Connor.
He and I have lively debates, but hey, thanks for your input, Trustee Painter. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much, and please extend our thanks to all the staff at QUADRA who contributed to this. We really appreciated it.
Again, thanks for the opportunity.
And next, we're going to move to community presentations. It's my pleasure to welcome Sean Rumble, who's a teacher at Rock Heights Middle School, And you're going to give us a presentation tonight. It's a 5-minute presentation. So yeah, do you have any, are we doing a PowerPoint, I believe, or?
Yeah, I've got some slides that I'm going to show, and we'll
Wonderful.
see where that takes us.
Do you need any support from us, or you've got it?
Let's hope that I got it, and we'll go from there.
Chair, I'm terribly sorry, and Sean, I'm terribly sorry, but don't we have A6 student engagement coach?
We do.
We do. I'm sorry.
Sean could carry on, and we can go back, but let's not forget that part.
Sean, do you want to just go since I got you all teed up? Are you feeling like it's time to go, or is it okay if I go back to A6?
No problem. It's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're back to student engagement, the COVID-19 school startup. I'm not sure who's leading that, but I look forward to hearing.
We have our 2 students, Annika and Lessa, who are helping us. So I'm just going to share our screen. There they are.
There they are.
There we go. Give me 1 second.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you ladies lead it, and then I'll walk through with it with you.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hi, I'm Annika from Vic High.
And I'm Lassa from Esquimalt High School.
After students had returned to school, the District Representative Advisory Council collectively felt that October was an appropriate time to check in and see how our students were doing with the new school year.
We had nearly 500 participants, more than 400 thoughts shared, and almost 6,000 thoughts ranked amongst peers. Each student representative distributed the thought exchange differently. Some examples would include sending the link to administration to distribute, while others put it on their school social media platforms, and some put it on Google Classroom.
This shows our high school's grade level participation. We see the highest number of contributors were in grade 12, and we believe this is due to the fact that the student representatives are also in grade 12. Our learning cohorts were the most informed since we relayed the message most to that group. Another factor for high levels of grade 12 involvement could be that many grads are concerned regarding grad events this year.
The top thought from Esquimalt was some grad opportunities and activities are being canceled or changed to accommodate for social distancing, which is a bit confusing and sad. At Esquimalt, we currently don't have any outstanding concerns.
The top thought from Vic High was, the 9 a.m. start has allowed me to get enough sleep to focus throughout the entire day. Even though it is only a 1-hour difference, I am finding that it greatly improves my attentiveness during class. A request from Vic High is that we are hoping to have a Vic High sign on the front of S.J. Willis, similar to what was put on the front of Richmond School when it was used for different schools.
In total, there were 15 key themes that emerged through the exchange, which includes everything from opinions on learning cohorts / social distancing, hand sanitizer, learning options, workload, length of classes, masks, lunchtime activities, safety protocols, social connections such as mental health, and quarter system classes. This word cloud just captures some keywords that kept resurfacing in comments.
Here we have the top rated thoughts. The top ranking thoughts all received more than a 4-star rating out of 5. The top ranking thought, or the number 1 ranking thought, was how students feel they are often asked to share their opinions, but no one ever listens, as well as they express some challenges with the quarter system. Other top thoughts include students expressing how they would like to delay start to the day, the importance of wearing masks. Some felt it should be mandatory everywhere, how the course load can be challenging, and how there needs to be safety protocols implemented in all bathrooms.
Here we have the average of top ranking themes. The top 5 themes were resources such as technology, counselor support, masks, quarter system classes, cohorts, hand sanitizer. However, by the way of this bar graph, you can see how close ranking all the themes were.
When we dive further into the top ranking theme on resources, we hear how students feel there is a need for additional support to help them with their studies and intense workload. a need for more workspaces to work in when classes are not open, more counselors needed to help students in schools, and more online options and resources to assist students learning from home.
The second ranking theme was masks. Overall, everyone understood the importance of wearing masks. There are some who feel it should be mandatory. This was a very straightforward theme with very few differences.
The third ranking theme was on the quarter system. Here we heard how some students are struggling with the quarter system and how there isn't enough time to process all the course material. There is stress with multiple exams at once. It's moving too quickly and there's too much homework. However, we also heard some opposing views where students felt the quarter system was less stressful and that they had more time to complete assignments and become more independent. This theme captured different learning styles.
The nice thing about thought exchange is that when there are differences in opinions, we can see what the opposing views had in common with one another. For instance, where students said classes were too long and others said it was too quick, one thing they agreed on was that they need somewhere to eat with their friends inside when the weather gets bad. And again, that they don't believe the school board will change anything based on their input.
Here we heard opposing views on cohorts. While some thought the cohorts were too big, we also heard from students who said the cohorts are isolating and are having troubles trying to maintain or develop friendships. What these students did have in common, though, was they all felt safety measures were really important. From masks to hand washing, they were on board. They also expressed how they did not appreciate those who exercised a lack of care about the new safety protocols.
The only other major difference in views was when it came to mental health and in-class instructions. Students on side A felt their mental health was better being back in school and that the extra time outside of the classroom made it helpful to complete homework and assignments, whereas students on side B felt a lot of pressure during this time and is feeling forced to comply to the new protocols and way of learning. They also asked why they couldn't be back in the classroom full time.
Thank you so much for your time and allowing us to present today.
Annika and Lassa, you can come back and present anytime. That was just riveting.
Thank you.
You guys did such a wonderful job. Thank you so much. That is a lot of information. And kudos, Lisa, for all that work in capturing all that. I know helping with the back end of this consultation effort. So it was really brilliant and a lot of information there to digest. Trustee McNally.
Thank you. Yes, that was impressive. I am so pleased to see this level of student engagement with issues that truly affect students in their daily lives. I hope we see lots more of it. This kind of makes my day for this meeting. Could we have a copy of the presentation sent to us? I must say there was one kind of heartbreaking comment in there about the level of support for mental health issues, and I'd like to look at that more. And I just want a copy of it so students can feel that they are being heard, so I can respond to it in depth. Long way of asking for the presentation. Could we have it? And yay, kudos to you.
Yes, we can send that to you, Diane.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments? I think we all just really enjoyed that. So thank you so much for putting all the time to prepare such a polished presentation. You should be very proud. I know I am. So Sean, that is a tough act to follow. Maybe you should have taken the just kidding. We're excited to hear from you.
If I could do it again, I'd switch again too, but that's okay. That was a fantastic job.
Oh, please go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Hopefully everybody can see that now. Just getting set up here.
We can see it.
Okay. Here we go. I'm here to talk about diversity in our school district. And here is the issue as I see it. Our teachers, principals, and administrators do not reflect the community in which we live. in our community. 1 in 5 people are non-white. This is from the census data. And this is my best educated guess, although I suspect it might be quite generous, that less than 1 in 10 of employees of school district 61 are non-white. Why is this a problem? Representation matters. Seeing yourself reflected in the leaders around you has a powerful impact on how you see yourself and who you want to become. I'm going to summarize this slide by saying students who have just a single teacher that matches their race have better attendance, fewer suspensions, more positive attitudes, higher test scores, improved graduation rates, and increased college attendance. It's incredibly impactful. But all students are more successful. Non-white educators can offer new and valuable perspectives for children of all backgrounds. And as educators ourselves, we make less informed decisions. Groups with greater diversity have more total perspective and experience, and together they make better choices in the interests of all students. And I don't want to lose sight of this one. I think it's just the right thing to do. Increasing diversity among our schools is something that I really feel that we should be working towards. And I suspect that if you all sort of think about it and think deeply about it, you'll feel the same way. So where are we going? I looked at the census data for the Greater Victoria area, and I went back a few years, and you can see a pretty clear trend that the percentage of Victorians who are non-white is increasing. And so here we are in 2020, and about 1 in 5 people are non-white. And if you zoom forward 10 years, you get to 2030, where 1 in 4 people are non-white. And so we are actually, in some sense, falling behind if we are not increasing the number, increasing the amount of diversity in our schools. And here we are with our teachers. So if we take that number of 1 in 10 of our educators being non-white, then we have a lot of work to do to try and get to that same place by 2030 and match the community in which we live. And if you break that down into numbers, that kind of looks like we need to be hiring about 20 non-white teachers every year for the next decade. And 2 non-white principals every year for the next decade. On top of that, I also think we should be aiming even higher than that. Another way to look at this is if our educators matched the population that we serve. So for example, if you were East Asian and you make up 8.7% of the population, that even if all the educators met that same level, there's still only a 1 in 12 chance of being represented by someone that looks like you. If you're Indigenous, there's only a 1 in 22 chance of being represented. And if you're South Asian, only a 1 in 48 chance of having a teacher each year that looks like you and represents you. So where do we go from here? Number one, I think as a district, we need to collect the data. That 1 in 10 number is my best guess, but we don't know. We don't know the true size of the problem. I think we need to set a goal. We need a clear, concrete, and measurable goal. And without a goal, it's too easy for us to say that we're trying, even when no progress year to year is made. I think we need to make our progress public. We need to report yearly our successes or failures and hold ourselves to account. Even failure can be progress if it teaches us our current strategy isn't working. And lastly, I think there's lots of examples to learn from. The BC government here, their public service has a diversity hiring policy, and I think we can learn a lot from them. And I'll just read a little bit because I think it's a good one. The BC Public Service is committed to diversity, inclusion, and respect. This means hiring employees who represent the population that we serve, removing barriers that may prevent equitable employment, and supporting respectful work environments where everyone feels included and able to produce excellent results. And that's it. That's my 5-minute presentation, under 5 minutes. Thank you.
Amazing time management there, because you covered a lot of excellent information. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and for your passion around this. I think it's so important. So really appreciate that being brought here tonight. So
thank you.
No, thank you. Next, we'll move to our correspondence section. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Chair, we have some comments and questions, I believe.
We don't generally do comments and questions after community presentations.
I'd like a copy of it.
Okay, we can certainly, the presentations that are always put up on the website after with the permission of the presenter.
And may I suggest that Mr. Rumble check out bylaw 9210. Anyone can develop policy. Just check it out. Sounds like time for one.
Okay, I am moving on, and you'll see under our bylaw 9360 under community presentations that we don't do back and forth with community. So if you want to have more discussions on this with us, Mr. Rumble, you're welcome to come to either of our standing committee meetings. And certainly that would be a great place to engage in a more broader conversation, not just with trustees, but with members of all of our employee groups and senior staff as well. Because it is important. I'm sure there's lots of us who have thoughts and questions around this. So that would be a way forward on this as well. But I am going to move to correspondence on our agenda. Trustees, is there anything here that you have any questions about? Trustee Duncan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take a moment and discuss the latest letter from VCPAC. I believe it's at page 29, if I'm correct, without the agenda being right in front of me at the moment. But I'm wanting to discuss in particular a couple of concerns that they raise in their letter, and which I think I certainly as a board would like us to just take a moment to consider, and that's around the shop report. And in particular, their concern around having access to data. So understanding kind of where we're at, getting a baseline indication of where we're at in terms of student and staff injuries. And so I'm wondering if that is something that we can, I'm hoping by consensus, agree that we need to, as a board, look at with some urgency, given what we're seeing in the report.
Are you moving a motion, Trustee Duncan?
If I have to, I'm hoping that this is something that we can agree by consensus, given everything that we've read in the last little while.
Do you want to discuss it under new business? I'm just thinking of where we are in the agenda, and I don't think we're under correspondence necessarily doing business. So if you have a question, we can do it under trustee questions. If you have a motion or suggestion of how to move forward by consensus or otherwise, perhaps we could do that under H1(2) at or B, I guess, under new business.
Yeah, sure. What I'll do is I'll try to address it under trustee questions, and barring that, we can deal with it under new business if that suits you, Chair. Thank you for the suggestions. And in the meantime, my only other comment around that particular piece of correspondence is I just wondered how it is we're going to in future, because I think this is going to be maybe potentially a bit of a standing item through correspondence, how we as a board wish to kind of address it. And it may be that comes through the superintendent's report tonight.
It's at superintendent's report E1B, VCPAC letter of November 18th, 2020.
Well, I will wait with great interest to hear that. Thanks so much.
Does anybody have any questions about the correspondence? Trustee McNally.
Thank you. It's not a question. I want to say how much I appreciate the decision from whoever made the decision to start including letters from other school districts and, a very full correspondence section here. It's very much appreciated.
Good. I'm so glad that that's valuable. It's hard to know. We've had lots of questions along the way around how best to do this, so I'm glad we're hitting a spot that works for everyone. If there are no other questions around these items, I'll move to the chair's report. And my December report is there for you at page 31. I won't belabor it other than to let you know that it's there and you're welcome to read it. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Seeing none, I'll move to the January work plan. And again, this is something that's giving us an opportunity to have a little bit of foresight so we can organize ourselves around what we expect to be coming up in January. And I'm trying to find it for all of you. So I can highlight some things. There isn't so much January. We start off slow after cramming everything into the end of this year. But there is the BC PC AGM, and we need to prepare our submissions. If there's anything we want to bring to BCSTA AGM, it would be great to see those in January. That would give us ample time to get them off. It's always a bit of a scramble. And then, of course, we're going to be requesting input for the budget process. So all things to look forward to in the new year, 2021. Any questions about the work plan? If none, I'll move to our standing committee chair elections. I just want to say with both the committee assignments and the standing committee and ad hoc committee assignments, we kept everything the same from last year because we really did not have a chance to get going, not so much with the standing committees, but with the other committees. And so your ed policy committee members are the same as they have been. Trustee Duncan, Trustee Ryan Painter, Trustee Tom Ferris, and I'm looking for your faces. Who do I get? Who am I missing? Trustee McNally. Thank you. You're in my bottom right corner. And then operations is Trustee Elaine Leonard, Trustee Rob Painter, Trustee Ann Whitaker, and Trustee Angie Hensa. And so tonight we have the task of electing the standing committee chairs, and we're going to start with ed policy. We had to do a board chair and vice chair elections by Zoom, and it's challenging. So we've made a few tweaks to our process here. So that hopefully this runs a little smoother than it has in the past. So we're going to start with the Education Policy and Directions Committee meeting, and I'm going to call for nominations, and trustees belonging to that committee, and I'm ex officio, you can send your nominations to the Secretary Treasurer and Deputy Superintendent by text as prearranged. Hopefully you have sent them a message earlier so they know who is who, and send your nominations in. They'll send them to me. We'll see who accepts our nominations, and then we'll have a vote or two, I guess. Well, there should only be one, but we'll see how many candidates we have for each. So thank you in advance, trustees, for bearing with us as we navigate this process, and for everybody else, there's be a little pause, but we want to make sure that we get this right. So this is the first call for nominations, second call for nominations. Trustee McNally? I can't hear you.
I'm just entering the numbers and kind of slow at doing the nominations. So do you want me to just nominate here and not hold everybody up? Or wait for me for a sec while I get this text happening?
We're gonna wait so everybody can do it the same way.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it takes a minute, that's okay.
Okay.
The hope was that we set this up in advance, but
well, I sort of did, but not well, apparently.
That's all right. So again, it's nominations for Ed Policy Standing Committee Chair, Ed Policy and Direction. And I shall wait until Diane gives me the thumbs up that the nominations are complete. Thank you, Diane. So the nomination period is closed and I will await the results. So we have received 2 nominations for the role of chair of the Ed Policy Committee, Trustee Nicole Duncan and Trustee Ryan Painter. Trustee Duncan, do you accept the nomination?
I do, Chair, with thanks to my nominator.
Thank you so much. Trustee Ryan Painter, do you accept the nomination?
I do, with thanks to my nominator.
Okay, we have 2 trustees nominated for chair. So please submit your vote. I'm now calling for votes for the chair. You have 2 options. Vote for Trustee Nicole Duncan or Trustee Ryan Painter to chair Ed Policy. So this is the bit of a drag for us, but such important work, and thank you to everybody for your patience. I mean, I think it takes just as long when you're writing down little slips of paper and collecting them. Maybe it's just being online, you have the sense of it taking longer. Thank you to our scrutineers. So I'm still waiting for results. Trustee McNally, did you have a question? Have you been able to vote? Good.
I do have a question, Chair. May I ask it while this is happening?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, as the chair is an ex officio member of both standing committees, is the chair voting in these elections?
I am voting, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, it's my pleasure to congratulate Trustee Ryan Painter, who won with 3 votes and will be our next Education Policy and Directions Chair. Thank you to both of you for putting your names forward. We look forward to a good year of the committee's work. So now we're going to repeat the process for the Operations Policy and Planning Committee. And we're going to do the exact same process, calling for nominations a first time. For chair of our Operations Policy and Planning Committee. And I'll call a second time and a third time for nominations. Is anybody still trying to do this, or can I declare nominations closed? Closed. Okay. Okay, we have 2 trustees nominated for the role of chair. Oh, wait. Trustees Kim, or trustee.
I'm sorry, we had a late entry, Angie Hensa as well.
Okay, so we have 3, thank you. Trustee Angie Hensa, Trustee Elaine Leonard, and Trustee Rob Painter. So Trustee Rob Painter, do you accept the nomination to chair the Operations Committee?
Actually, I'll decline with thanks to my nominator. I think it's great that all the trustees get an opportunity, so I'll be voting in that way.
Trustee Hensa, do you accept the nomination?
I also decline with many thanks to my nominator, but I don't feel ready to take this on at this point.
Okay, Trustee Hensa, we look forward to you taking on a chairing role one day. That leaves us with Trustee Leonard. I don't know what happens if you don't accept the nomination.
I accept with thanks to my nominator.
Okay, so Trustee Leonard, it remains the chair of our Operations, Policy and Planning Committee, is acclaimed in that role. So thank you everybody very much for helping us run a smooth election of our standing committee chairs. And I look forward to good work from both committees for the coming year. And the term is 1 year, as with all of the roles, we do the elections annually. Next up on our agenda is C1D, which is the trustee standing committee assignments that are there for your information. I think it gives a really good picture of how busy we are as a board and all the various initiatives that we have ongoing. I don't know if there's any questions around this. It's the same as last year with the few tweaks at the requests of the trustees. But certainly my intention is to make sure that everybody is happy and able to serve in the way that they feel like they can make the best contribution. So hopefully that's what we've got. Next up under trustee reports, I'll turn it over to Trustee Hensa.
Thanks. I don't really have much to add other than the CSTA Trustee Academy was excellent, and there were some really great learning opportunities there. I gave a bit of a probably over report because I was just excited about some of the workshops that we did, particularly the stuff about mental health literacy. I believe that everything is, all the videos are still on the hub until tomorrow. So, and you don't have to watch them right away. You can download them to your computer and watch them at your leisure. So I highly recommend, if there's anything that piques your interest, to take a look at them. It was very good.
Thank you so much. Now I'll turn to Trustee McNally for your report.
Thank you so much. I did send in a written report, too late to make it into this pack-up, so I hope it'll be there in January. The Indigenous Nations Education Council held a meeting on the 11th, which was even after my late report. So I just want to hit some highlights from that. It was very interesting. There was, we have a new district Indigenous counselor who can do a more holistic offering of counseling support, and I guess support for other counselors. Joanne Mitchell, so congratulations, Joanne. There was a really good and deep conversation about the equity scan, and there will be more coming forward about that, I'm sure, from the committee and from the superintendent and those members of the equity scan group. Some of the questions asked were, what does it mean to be culturally responsive? And Shelley Nimi gave us a really good timeline from 2005 to the present, which included 11 recommendations to the board and sadly 4 out of 11 have been implemented across the province. Establishing equity scan groups was one of them, and so School District 61 as a body felt ready to join that initiative this year, and so 18 school districts are doing this, and we're one of them. There's going to be a detailed report coming forward, I believe, from administration in January. And just one remark for us all to be aware of. The sad reality was raised that sometimes the data entry on these 1701 counts, students who are non-status or students who are Métis are not being coded as Indigenous, which we all need to know they are by now. So that's just an update. I think there's going to be a global sweep of self-identification coming through. So there was lots to talk about. There's a TOR is coming forward from the Indigenous Nations Education Council, which has taken some time and will be very thoughtfully presented. There's going to be a provincial initiative to develop a provincial TOR for all Indigenous Nations Education Councils, but this area is concerned with maintaining autonomy and their own identity. It was a really interesting meeting, and I'm always honored to be at that table. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trustee McNally. And the next report is Trustee Ryan Painter.
Thank you, Chair. It'll be quick. I too submitted my report a little bit late, but it is there for trustees to view. Of note, as Chair Waters has said, 2021 BCSTA AGM important dates. There will be a formal call for motions on January 4th, 2021. So that's when we can begin our motion submission. Last day for extraordinary motions is February 4th. And the last day for substantive motions are February 16th. So if I submit the report for trustees, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, trustees, for your reports. And thank you, Trustee Painter, for putting a fine point on that. I did not realize how quickly those BCSTA motions. So if you've got something in the works, we'll definitely need it in January. So now I'm moving on to section D of our agenda, the board committee reports. Last Monday, we had a combined ed policy and operations meeting. It was a very full meeting with a lot of really interesting reports, and the combined minutes are there for your information. And then we have one motion coming from Ops. Elaine, if you want to introduce it for the board's consideration.
Sure, will do. Just one motion coming forward, recommended motion that the Board of Education of ST 61 in Greater Victoria approve the 2021-2022 budget report as presented. So you can see it there before you, and that was out of such a long meeting. It's amazing that this was the only motion to come out of it.
So I'll put the motion on the floor. And before we begin to debate it, I'd love to hear if any of our partners have anything they want us to consider in terms of the budget process as it was presented. No. Okay. Trustees, is there any debate on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the 2021-2022 budget process as presented? And that's unanimous. Now at E1, I'll turn it over to the superintendent for her report.
Thank you, Chair. As you can see in the pack-up, my report on page 46. Want to highlight a couple of pieces in it. One being for sure that it's very nice to be able to start, even though we are under COVID rules and have huge guidelines, to be able to get out into schools. And even if we're walking around outside with distance of 6 feet with masks on, it's so nice to get out and see what students are doing and talk about the initiatives in our buildings and the educational initiatives going on. So that's been a real treat to be able to swing back into that circular piece again, talking about school goals and where people are going. The other piece that I can update for trustees is that we are this close to being able to post online our first set of admin policies and procedures. And those will be hopefully in January. We started with our HR. We've been working diligently to get them all cleaned up and ready as a first group to be able to get them on our public facing website. And so I'm truly hoping that in January, we are just about ready to do that and follow suit with health and safety thereafter. So truly hoping that that can be a piece coming forward, and look forward to completing that. I'm hoping by April. So that's our goal that we've got in front of us. So just putting it forward for trustees to accept my report.
Trustee McNally, are you moving
May I ask a question first, or would you like to move acceptance first?
If you have a question, let's do questions.
Yep. I just through the chair to the superintendent. I know that there was a visit to Victor School, so just wondering if the building has been completely remediated from the mold situation. I probably lost the plot on that. But just a quick update.
And it's in great shape, and it's so nice to be able to see them utilizing the entire building again.
Great, thank you so much.
Can I have a mover and a seconder for accepting the superintendent's report? Thank you, Trustee Leonard, Trustee Whitaker. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Superintendent?
And I would just like to circle back, as we mentioned in the last meeting with VCPAC. I'm very grateful for them to come and present their letter and talk about the pieces that were on the PAC's mind. It was a unique scenario that we hadn't fallen into before. I've certainly had online meetings as we've gone through COVID with the VCPAC executive and executive members that have been very successful asking questions. I know our deputy superintendent has continued to meet with the executive as well, talking about different things that are on their mind, inclusion being one of those topics. And I've talked to the VCPAC executive about reinstituting PAC 101, about down the road, bringing PACs together and their chairs and their teams, talking about the role of a PAC and how to support PACs. And true enough, the letter also speaks to the PAC executive becoming new and changing over. Having said all of that, going through all of the thoughts and concerns that were brought forward in this letter, the vast majority of them linked to schools. And so had an opportunity to meet with principals and vice principals to share the letter with them and go through the pieces that would highly likely pertain to them and their school and their PACs. And what I've asked all of our principals and vice principals to do is go through this letter very carefully and closely and put this on their agenda with their PAC chairs to have a conversation. And so I've also encouraged them to encourage their PAC chairs to follow up with VCPAC once they've had an opportunity to go through this entire letter. Some of it pertains to secondary, some of it just to elementary, and some of it to specific schools. And since it's the first time in, it seemed like the closer communication. I certainly could not answer every single school, how all of these things, or even where some of these components came up, and be able to deliver a proper report to Crystal and PAC people, although I certainly understand the need to create a communication flow that's helpful to VCPAC and individual PACs and their PAC members. So this is a starting place for us. We'll continue to share any of the correspondence that comes forward to ensure that those conversations go on at schools. And again, once again, encouraging the communication from PAC chairs to VCPAC so that they can hear what the responses are like, where people are coming from. So that communication link continues. and encourage that as a regular communication body. And it made me think about PAC 101, actually, that looking forward to working with Crystal and her team to create that. And perhaps if we do that on a regular basis about where the communication flow and schools with their PACs and principals and vice principals and their teams on questions they have or concerns they have, and areas of communication flow that we can support them in, or when there's concerns, where do you go with those pieces? And the parent complaint process that we've talked about lots comes to mind. So I think it will be great when we circle back in the spring to talk about preparing and planning that. And then there are a couple that would be more of the district reports. So outdoor spaces and a facilities report. And putting those there so that in January, Chuck can circle back through his facilities and make fulsome reports on some of the areas that are a bigger picture. And I'm hoping that this will at least start a flow. Now, this is the first time in, and I'm happy to reach out to VCPAC for an initial meeting once we've had a chance to respond in this way, because it did come to a board meeting in public, wanted to respond that way, but now wanting to create probably a tighter process with Crystal and your team on what would work for you. And hopefully this response will be fluid and continuous so that people's questions get answered in the proper way, in the proper space, on a prompt way to be following up.
Thank you, Superintendent. Do we have questions? Trustee Whitaker?
Thanks, and thanks for that response. So just noting that the original direction was for the chair to reach out to VCPAC, and noting how many items that there are in there, and I think some that we can answer right away, understanding that others are bigger responses. I wonder if we are able to at least provide a written response to that letter. So that's one form of two-way communication, that they're at least getting something. And I note in the past, the superintendent used to attend the DPAC meetings at times. That's often a way to hear what's going on. So maybe that's a suggestion. But I would like us to follow up on this, and I would like to hear that we are actively, not just the principals and the PAC, but I would like to be hearing from PAC as a trustee, whether it's the individual PACs or the DPAC. And so I think that principals talking to PACs is great, but I think that we need to do a little bit more than that. So I see Crystal wants to speak to it, but those are my thoughts. I would like us to at least respond to this letter.
Do you have a motion, Trustee Whitaker, or a suggested response that we can discuss?
Well, so I don't want to make the motion because I think that there's a lot in it, unless it's that the superintendent provide, answers to those questions that can be answered, and that we follow up. And maybe that's the motion, that we respond to those things that we can provide an answer to, and we commit to follow up with them in some way on those things that we can't. But as the superintendent says, it's a lengthy list. So if that works, that's what I'm moving the motion on then.
Can you repeat that?
Write it out?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay, I'll try and write something. Well, anyway, so I think it's to respond to that the superintendent reply to those items in the letter that she can, and that we provide a means to follow up with the other, or we say we're going to follow up with the other ones.
So you're looking for a response from the chair saying the superintendent.
Well, thank you. No, I think that okay, it should be the chair that responds, but we should respond to the letter and saying, thank you for your letter. And based on all those things that we can answer those. Right? That makes sense. Sorry.
It does. It's just a lot of it is, it's very operational, right? Like it's not things that I have at my fingertips. It's complex. There's a lot there. So just in terms of how to respond, I'd love some direction, because certainly there's a lot in the list, and I know that we're going to have this as a standing item, so just wanted to make sure that we find a way that works the best. Trustee Leonard?
I think we have to keep our response fairly tight, because as we said, there is a lot to unpack in the first letter they wrote as well as the second letter they wrote. So starting with what Trustee Whitaker had said, thank you very much for your letter of such and such. The superintendent and I have met, and we've talked about various ways that these items can be addressed or looked at. And as we move forward, we will be updating you on progress. Something along that line, because I don't think you can talk to specifics in the letter. You have to keep it fairly general. And with everything that the superintendent has said that she's about to do, and the things that she's asked facilities to do and things like that, most of the items in the letter are being looked at by someone in one way or another.
Certainly as board correspondent, so I want to make sure that it comes to the board, we have a chance to talk about it, and then I can certainly respond in that way if that captures what you're going for, Trustee Whitaker. Yes. Okay, do we have, if you're moving that motion, do we have a seconder? Trustee Leonard. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any of our partners want to speak to the motion? Crystal?
Thanks for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for the discussion. I do want to note that our letter is very much in the same realm that our student representatives' communication sent to you or presented to you tonight. It's a way to make sure that the concerns that we are discussing as a group certainly are brought forward for your information and action where you can take action. You know, it is very much, this is what parents are concerned about. Things like mental health. You know, you'll notice in our letter, we have today's date for this meeting, we raised a request for students to have more support because the quarter system is moving so fast that there needs to be more tutorial support, for example, or counseling support. So we do love to hear that you're grappling with how to respond, but it's also very much a piece that it is very intentional that this is a public letter that goes to the board. You know, I appreciate some things are school level, but these are all things that were discussed in open at our members meeting, and they're really more than one school. Everything that's in that letter, I think for the most part, both our earlier letter and tonight's letter are cross-district issues raised by multiple schools, and that's kind of the entry level at which we bring it up to you. So I think it is a bigger issue than most of the issues there are bigger issues than just individual school issues. So, well, thank you very much for your continued discussion.
Okay, any other speakers to the motion? Trustee McNally.
I support the motion, and thank you, Trustee Whitaker, for bringing it up. I certainly hope that we'll continue to get letters from the DPAC, and that the concerns won't be moved to some appropriate venue that isn't here. So thank you, DPAC, for bringing your letters forward, and please carry on.
Well, I think we want to move them to the places where they can be solved, which isn't always going to be here, but I understand and hear very clearly the importance of this being a public letter and a public discussion. Yeah. And so certainly that happens here, but the problem solving may happen in other places.
Yep.
Okay, if I don't see any speakers to the motion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. So next step on the agenda under the superintendent's report, trustee questions. Trustee Duncan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So yeah, I just wanted to circle back to one of the most recent VCPAC letter because I think that there is an opportunity for us as a board to confirm the injury and incidents for students and teachers in school shops over the last 3 years, to provide that data. I think given that what we've heard in the last month, the last few weeks, it's time for us to, and I'm hoping by consensus, it's time for us to really more fully understand the nature of the issue. And I think this is something that we can do now while we're waiting to have the deeper, more detailed discussions around the table in January. And so I'm wondering what the superintendent thinks about that. And so sort of a comment and a question all in one. So through the chair to the superintendent.
So Kim can probably speak a little bit to what's on our horizon coming forward. This has been a report and an investigation that stems back for a significant period of time on some areas that we realized there was some definite oversight that was required, and beginning to deal in that and realizing how broad it was and how deep it was. And so it's taken us a fair bit of time to be doing that. I know that our facilities people, once they started to seriously look at all of our shops, actually ended up by shutting some of them down and some of the equipment down until we could get a handle on exactly what it looks like and looking into much more in-depth scenarios on what to be doing. So at this point, you've seen the report. We are looking at how to be moving forward. There'll be some very clear recommendations about upgrading some of these pieces. Chuck is always very cautious and careful about the safety and safety procedures being followed and use of every single piece of equipment as we move forward. Secretary Treasurer Kim, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you've covered it off in terms of the process so far. The board has not discussed where to from here, and so we hope to do that in January to talk about next steps, recommendations, and budget.
Trustee Duncan?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to redirect, if I may, Chair.
Sure.
Thanks. So my specific...
You have another question, essentially?
No, I just wondered if I could get an answer to the question that I asked, which is around, I'm asking for the view of the superintendent, or indeed the secretary treasurer, if that's more appropriate, around providing what BC PAC has requested in their most recent letter, and that is data for the last 3 years, aggregate data on accidents and injuries to our students and to staff in shops.
We can certainly
provided.
We can certainly investigate any of the incidents, accidents, or scenarios in the shops. I have not entered into any of those pieces, but happy to circle back and start digging in.
Thank you.
Certainly, if that's work that we want undertaken as a board, we could, I think it would be wise to do it by motion. To me, that sounds like a pretty big project, aggregating data across 3 years, and I'd want it to be done if that were the choice, not off the side of a desk. Secretary Treasurer Morris.
I wonder if, since we ran out of time in December and we have yet to discuss the report and its recommendations, I wonder if the board would wait until then in order to add a recommendation or review the ones that are there.
Trustee Painter.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, obviously speaking as one member of the board, I can't and I don't plan to direct staff. From the Secretary Treasurer, there's no motion on the floor. Obviously, I can't speak for the chair, but there's no motion. So I'm totally happy with waiting until January to see what you come back. We had a rushed last meeting, and I think staff still has more to present to the board. So I'm fine with waiting until January.
To be clear, either way, this item is going to be on we're going to be dealing with it in January. So with no motion on the floor and we are under trustee questions, are there any other questions on other subjects? Trustee Whitaker?
Thank you. Did I already ask about the video cameras? I think I keep trying to ask about the video cameras at Vic High. Yeah, so maybe I'll start with there. If the Secretary Treasurer can give us a little something on that.
Yes, we're working through our video surveillance regulation in order to bring back a report to the board for consideration in January to install video cameras. So we're not finished that work yet, and it will come to the board in January.
If I can just follow up, I believe in the previous when this first came up, it was going to be our expense, and you were going to check and make sure that was true in the contract, because my understanding is usually contractors pay for their surveillance of the site. So I'm just wondering if in the report that you bring back, if that can be included in that as well.
Yes, I have it on the list.
Okay, thank you. And then I just also wanted to, perhaps I missed it, but we do have a motion on the books or regulation about bringing a summary of trustee expenses annually to the board. And I just haven't seen that. So I just wanted to, I don't know when that's coming, or just put something out there that that's my understanding is that once annually that gets updated.
Secretary Treasurer, this is not superintendent questions anymore, I'm afraid.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Secretary Treasurer, apparently.
I can check on that and find out when that usually comes. And if we've missed it, we'll be certain to bring it.
Thank you.
Point of clarification here.
Yes.
Is that not normally presented in September when all of the expenses of all the trustees, that is when it's publicly out there? It shows all of the expenses and what they were?
That's what I was thinking. I just, yeah, sorry. I just missed it if it came out.
Okay, we'll add it to the list. Trustee Rob Painter, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, I'm just looking for a bit of clarification. In the December 6th article about the Vic High track and the land use decision that will be coming forward, the Secretary Treasurer stated that the current scope of the stadium and track came about as a result of consultation, and that the ultimate decision on the larger stadium project was made prior to the 158 unit housing project coming along. And I was just seeking some clarification about the timeline in that particular case, because it not quite what I remember, but I know what my track record is.
So again, this is superintendent questions. I see we have a lot of questions for the Secretary Treasurer. I'm not sure that this is the appropriate venue for those questions. And this feels sort of like a veiled, not a super clear question to me. Can you
would it be a more
rephrase
appropriate
and direct it to the superintendent?
Okay. To the superintendent, the statement was made in was recorded in the Times Colonist article that the current scope of the stadium and track came about as a result of consultation, and that the ultimate decision on the larger stadium project was made prior to the 158 unit housing project coming along. My question to the superintendent is, could we get a timeline of when that decision on the stadium project was made and how that corresponds with the discussions related to the Caledonia project?
Yes, we can provide you with a timeline.
Thank you.
Trustee McNally, and then we're going to move on.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions. So one, for the superintendent, this was arising from a motion carried unanimously in September 24th, 2018, that the board direct the superintendent to survey schools each November regarding space pressures and use of resource, sensory, and breakout rooms with students back in schools on varying bases, as far as I can understand it, but they're back there. Was this survey done in November 2020?
Trustee McNally, we did not do this survey this year. Students, as you've mentioned, although students are back in, they are in varying different scenarios. And the rotational piece wouldn't give us accurate data on how space has changed, especially under the boundary review. We absolutely are looking forward to being fully back in, hopefully next year. And then we can continue this process, which will give us actually valid data. Everything with the amount of hybrid models and how much space they're using and the rotational thing just doesn't give us an accurate account.
Thanks so much. One more question. In February 2020, vetting students for enrollment in the Arbutus classroom for students with low incidence designations was mentioned. Is vetting students planned for February 2021? This is not going to be a question you can answer right here probably, but I'd like to get it out there. What is the status of that program? How many students are enrolled as of December 2020? How is the availability of the classroom as a choice, if indeed it still is, being communicated to parents across the district? And what is the funding structure? So that's one I'll leave with you because I'm pretty sure it can't be answered right here, although you never know, maybe it can.
I would say that that's a fairly lengthy report that we would have to be putting together that will take some time to find and succinctly put together all of those pieces for trustees. If trustees indeed would like senior management to follow up with a report such as the one you've described.
So should I bring a motion, Superintendent?
I think that's a great idea.
I will.
Okay, thanks so much. We're going to move to the Secretary Treasurer's report.
I'm typing away here. So my report is attached. I have two things to highlight. Through our Safe Design partnership, we applied with Civil Forfeiture Crime Prevention and Remediation Grant Program for a $75,000 grant to address crime reduction at South Park Elementary School, given the window breakages and things we had in August and close to startup, as well as S.J. Willis, our swing space for capital projects, as we've had some a little bit of vandalism and some break-in to sea cans and things at S.J. Willis. And so we'll let you know the outcome of that application to find out if we were successful in our funding. I'd also, not on my report, but I'd also really like to report that solar panels have gone up at Torquay Elementary, aligning with the key values of sustainability for the school district. A 25 kilowatt solar system is being installed. It connects to the grid. It will be used to be more energy efficient and a clean renewable energy source and an education tool as teachers and students can monitor the energy savings at their school. And that's my report.
Trustee Duncan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how thrilled I am to hear about that. That's such great news and certainly a very, very positive step in the right direction. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Okay, any other questions, or would somebody like to move that we accept the report? Thank you, Trustee McNally, Trustee Duncan. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. So next we're moving to question period, and I believe we have one question tonight.
We do.
We do.
We have one question. Oh, do you want to read it, Jordan?
No, go ahead.
One
go ahead.
question.
Ms. McPhail, if you can do it all the better, then I don't have to scramble to try and find it.
From Ms. Hammer is regarding the shop audit report. So there's two questions. She's asking, how is it that shop classes continue to be held in unsafe educational spaces? And what is the immediate plan for remedying the safety issues outlined in the audit reports? Or sorry, remedying the safety issues outlined in the audit reports.
So again, this is an issue coming forward in January where we'll be able to have a fulsome conversation at committee, Crystal, where VCPAC can participate in that conversation there, which may be the best. It's pretty big questions here, and I'm not sure how we can respond to that. Superintendent, did you have anything to add, or I think we should refer to this?
It definitely is going to be all in a fulsome part of the report, but notwithstanding any of those things, obviously would not be allowing any of our students to be utilizing equipment or space without having health and safety plans in order for them to be following that through. So as I mentioned earlier, when we have had the experience where we realized the space wasn't, or procedures or actual equipment, then we've shut it down. And so as much as we have work to do and we have forward-thinking pieces to be doing, and all of that will be a part of the report, that is definitely a forefront on our mind.
Thank you so much for the question. And in terms of the plan for remedying all of the issues, and you know, the ambitious plans will all be discussed and debated next month in January. And so I do hope that you'll be able to be a part of that conversation. Next up, it's our public disclosure of in-camera items at G1 and G2. And so these both relate to meetings on November 23rd, and the reports are there for your reference. Next, I'll move to, oh wait, we have two more items, don't we, that we should have added to the agenda earlier, but didn't. Perhaps the Secretary Treasurer could remind me.
One was about Braefoot and one was about the NLC at Vic High.
So, and that more information will be released, the specific motions into the public. Kim, did you want to say?
Want me to speak to what they were?
If you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate that.
Sure. Oh, sorry, I have to go into eScribe.
Just my challenge is
and so the Braefoot item relates to the fact that we are working with Francophone School District number 93 in order to build them a temporary modular home on the site of Braefoot Elementary School while they search and build a new school in the Victoria area. And that we look forward to working with CSF in order to help them move out of Sundance, in order for us to move in, and to help them find a temporary home. The other around Vic High was to let people know what kind of amenities were going to be included in the NLC, including the pursuit of an artificial turf field using NLC funding, which has not been approved yet, but we're pursuing it in, with our partners, Bays United, the City of Victoria, and Vic High alumni.
Thank you so much. Very exciting. Trustee McNally?
Sad, but I don't know what NLC funding is.
It's the Neighborhood Learning Center, which is a part of the Vic High project. Those acronyms, they just creep up. So next up, Trustee McNally, I'm turning it over to you under new business.
Thank you, Chair. As we know from Roberts, the motion is not on the floor until the chair reads it.
Okay, if you'd like me to read the motion, I can certainly do so. I haven't read any motions tonight, so I'm glad to do it. That the Board of Education direct the superintendent to staff early childcare before and after school programs with first consideration to QP 947 members who apply for the positions. And further, that QP 947 EAs immediately, as soon as possible, be offered the positions at their currently hourly wage before wide advertisement or SD61 staff contracting with other community providers. Do you have a seconder?
Chair, I actually want to move to postpone this motion until a fixed date of March 2021, and I'm happy to give my rationale.
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm hoping that we can postpone it to March 2021 to allow the board some time to consider with senior staff some of the issues regarding the direction that our school district will be taking in relation to childcare and early childhood education, especially in light of the ministerial order, childcare order 32620 from August 2020, which requires that school districts establish a board policy and in doing so consider, as per paragraph 3 of the order, steps for determining if a board will renew a lease with a licensee providing childcare on board property, and in doing so includes consideration of whether or not a board should provide a childcare program directly, and if it's appropriate for the board to become a licensee, and the board has space and staffing capacity to offer before and after school childcare, whether the board should provide a childcare program directly with district staff. So given the timing of the ministerial order, the fact that, again, if the superintendent has an update for us on where that policy is planning to originate from, I think it makes sense that given the overlapping issues, that we work on developing that policy and clarifying what we're planning to do, and then consider Trustee McNally's motion in light of that work.
Superintendent?
Thank you for that, Trustee Duncan. I truly appreciate that you're bringing that forward as a reminder to our trustees of the policy and the pieces that work that we need to do. We also are very clear that the new minister has put in their mandate letter that this ministry is very keen on looking at childcare as moving from under an MCFD and or health umbrella under an education umbrella. And if that is definitely the case, we are going to be looking at some very big changes in operations under education. And I would very clearly expect some overall mandates to be coming forward, some budgeting components coming forward, and some wider prospects. And so we are expecting to be hearing about that in the new year. And this new minister has let us know very clearly that that is on their mandate and it is coming our way in education. So I agree with you to wait on a motion like this, because I think there's going to be a bigger expectation coming under education as we enter into the spring.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just trying to think, do we need a seconder for a motion to refer to a definite time?
Yeah, I'm going to second that.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Whitaker. Are there any speakers to the motion to refer to March 2021? Trustee Leonard and Trustee Ferris.
Sorry, I'm just wondering if instead we could refer to when we have more information from the government. March, we might not have that information, so then we'd be referring again. So is it possible to leave it a little bit more open than that?
You could suggest an amendment.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to amend to after we've heard more information from the minister on childcare and any ramifications to K-12 education.
Do you have a seconder? Okay, thank you, Trustee Ferris. Any speakers to this amendment? Trustee Reinpainter?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I did mean to jump in with this earlier, but the thing snowballed before I was able to. I have to submit a non-pecuniary conflict of interest being as I am the executive director of a local not-for-profit that supports childcare, specifically not-for-profit childcare, and I feel that this issue could be perceived as a conflict of interest if I vote. So I'm feeling like I need to recuse myself from this discussion, and it's definitely getting a little bit more into it. So I'm looking to you, Chair, as to what you think I should do. Should I just sign off, or how would you like me to proceed?
No, you just don't vote. It's a public meeting. You're welcome to listen in. And we will understand why you abstain from the vote. In fact, we can have it reflected in the record. I think it's probably the best idea. Okay, so the amendment to the motion to refer, Trustee McNally.
Thank you. I'd like to I speak against the amendment. If we don't have the information we need by March, we can continue to refer it to a date when the information is expected. I'm really leery of motions or asks that don't have a definite timeline. Everybody's very busy. There's always some major overload, and these things can drift off because something else emergent has come up. So I would really like to retain the date, and obviously if we need to postpone again, we will. So I'll be voting against the amendment. Sorry, my cat's gonna wreck my plan here. I'll be right back. I'm speaking against the motion, the amendment.
And we're just talking about the amendment to the motion, because the motion to refer isn't debatable. So
no, it's the motion, the amendment.
Yeah. Did anybody else want to speak to the amendment? Trustee Whitaker?
Yeah, I would speak against it as well. My concern being that I don't want us be, well, one, our district has been quite strong in our thoughts towards early education being under the Ministry of Education. And I'm also concerned that we would sit back and wait for the ministry to come forward with something. We just don't know. If it is something that we're committed to, let's go for it, rather than sitting around and waiting for the ministry to tell us our next steps. They could suddenly decide that they're going to.
Okay, we just want to speak to the amendment.
They're still going to do the work, but
we're just speaking to the.
Well, and that is what I'm speaking to. I don't want to wait for. I don't want in the amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to. The amendment is on the date, right? And it's in the date is to say for the government. I don't support it because I don't want to wait for government to fulfill a whole bunch of things before we start working. I want to work right away.
Okay, Trustee Hensa?
Thanks. I may have confused myself. So this is on not on the motion to refer, but on the motion to amend the date is what we're talking about right now.
Trustee Duncan moved to refer to March 2021, and Trustee Leonard has suggested an amendment or moved an amendment to postpone or refer this motion until after we've heard from the government on this particular issue.
So can I, after this vote about the amendment, can I speak about the motion to refer, or is that we don't debate that?
There's no debate on a motion to refer. But the good news is it sounds like this will be coming back. The only question is when.
Right.
So you'll be able to speak on it when we get there. But because the motion on the refer came before there was any discussion or
okay,
we're not going to be able to talk about it tonight.
I will hold it until later.
Trustee Painter and then Trustee Duncan. I believe everyone will have spoken.
Yeah, I was just looking at the child care order 326, and paragraph 5 says boards must submit their policies respecting the use of board property, yada, 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 on a date specified by the minister. I was asking to seek clarification from the superintendent if we actually have any information about a fixed date that the minister has established for this, or are we still vague?
For superintendent or secretary treasurer?
The mandate letter, the Ministry of Education's mandate letter says that They will work with the Minister of Children and Family Development and the Minister of State for childcare to integrate childcare into the broader learning environment by developing a strategy to move delivery of childcare into the Ministry of Education by 2023. That's the only date I've seen so far.
And in terms of the date for the policy,
I do not know a date for the policy.
Not received that.
If we have, I haven't recorded it in my brain.
Trustee Duncan?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to speak against the amendment. I think that I would feel more comfortable that we make this a priority, and even if we do need to postpone it again because we're not able to kind of maybe complete our discussions of what our board policy is going to be around this, I think it's really important that we, get moving on it and prepare as much as we possibly can in advance of any, further directions from the ministry. Appreciating that, again, we may be in a position where we have to postpone again.
Because the thing that you believe needs to happen before we can consider this motion is development of the policy. Just seeking clarity here.
Well, ultimately, the ultimate goal, if you read the order, is development of a board policy on a number of different areas. It's going to be quite complex, I anticipate, to meet the requirements of the order. But what I'm proposing is that we engage in the discussions that need to occur in order to get to a place where we can then ultimately develop that policy and discuss Trustee McNally's motion. Again, inevitably that will happen in discussing the requirements of the order as a board and with our staff and stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. So I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? All those opposed? So the amendment fails, and we're back to the main motion to refer, which is debatable, but we're not debating the motion. It's simply
it's not a motion to refer. It's a motion, point of order. It's a motion to postpone to a definite time.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Okay. In my personal approach to Roberts, as long as we've got it very clear where this is coming back, which is March 2021 is what is on the floor, we'll call it a motion to postpone if that
well, it could affect debate or not.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand. I think point of orders, we're worried about if the process is going to change the outcome, whereas I think we're all on the same page. We've clarified this a few times of what the intention here of this motion is. Trustee Leonard, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, I do. I just want it clarified. I'm hoping that it's being referred to March ops and not the board meeting, as that's the time for a fulsome discussion on anything that comes forward as opposed to a board agenda.
The current motion is to refer, I think, to the board meeting, Trustee Duncan. So Trustee Leonard, if you'd like to refer it to a standing committee, that would be an amendment.
I move to amend because I think that's the ideal place to have a fulsome discussion.
I agree. Can we have a seconder on referring to ops, I suppose? Yes. Trustee Whitaker? Yes,
yeah,
seconding.
Do it.
Okay, so we're postponing to ops 2021. Trustee Duncan?
Yeah, I just had a question of clarification. So my understanding is that this is I guess there's sort of a fine line between whether this is an educational program educational programming aspects of it are educational programming, and aspects of it are, operational from the point of view of our facilities and being a landlord or not. And so I'm wondering if ops is the right place for it, not questioning the need to go to a standing committee. I think that's a great suggestion, but just which standing committee because of the subject matter? I wondered if.
Well, the amendment is to send it to ops, I understood. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation around which standing committee? To me, it feels very opsy, but.
Yeah, I think initially it should be an ops standing committee because ultimately we're looking at more procedures and it will be a cost item, and how the ministry comes down with some of the mandates on more of an organizational structure. It's more on a planning component to begin with.
And the policy is going to be more around, not so much the educational philosophy as I think is just more the operational side. Any speakers to the motion to post the amendment to the motion to postpone?
Well, this is now an amendment to refer. So as you pointed out before, Chair, there's no debate.
It's an amendment, so just seeing if there's any speakers. Okay. Seeing none, I'll call the question on the amendment, which is to make it ops. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. So we're back to the main motion. Is there any speakers?
Sorry, Chair, point of order.
Yeah.
I didn't vote on the last one, so just want to make sure there was one abstention. No.
Yes, we have one abstention. Thank you, Ryan.
Chair, I'm sorry, I'm losing the point of the agenda here. I thought we just dealt with this motion by referring it to ops, so there's no need.
We didn't. We amended Trustee Duncan's motion to refer it to the board meeting in 2021 to make it ops. So now we're there. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. So March 2021, we will look forward to discussing the specific motion. But I think very important to make the point that there's a lot of discussion around early learning and before and after school care that needs to happen between now and then. I look forward to those conversations. Trustee Leonard?
Just something for the minutes. I think as Trustee Ryan Painter pointed out, it shouldn't be just he's showing as an abstention. I think for him personally, and he wants to be it reflected that way, at the beginning of this item, he needs to say that he recused himself for pecuniary reasons, and then he came back in for after. So that's usually how the minutes should be reflected, just so he is covered on all of his bases.
Yeah, it's going to be reflected in the minutes.
Great.
Any notices of motion? Seeing that, I told my son, who has a hard time getting to sleep, that we'd be done by 9:30, and I would like the record show that he was 9:29. Motion to adjourn. I will see you all in 2021. I look forward to all that we will accomplish together. Thank you to everybody for all the hard work this year. It has just been, I don't even have words anymore, but I know how hard everybody's been working. So I hope everybody is able to have a little bit of restorative break and time with family on Zoom.
Happy holidays.
Hi, everybody.
Chair,
Bye.
just a point of order. Oh, okay, forget it.
Trustee Painter?
I thought Madeline, I wasn't sure if Madeline was waving goodbye or if she was raising her hand to ask a question. Sorry.
No, I think everybody's happy to end the night. Thank you so much.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Bye.